going. You can use the transition property to create visual, beautiful effect of melting one image into another, which is very nice. Again, in the past, you had to do JavaScript or ActionScript for this. No other two ways about it. Second value, we'll look at some of how this works. We looked at the different values of translation duration, whether it be ease in or ease out, and the timing function. Next, we define the hover with an opacity of 0. So when cursor hovers over the top image, its opacity becomes fully transparent. It's great for web designers that were forced to learn ActionScript or JavaScript and really didn't like it, because a lot of this stuff you had to do programming to get to work in other versions, and now you won't have to. So this has got to be a real godsend for web designers that don't like to program. So look at this next one, which is the melting images, figure 5.14. Look at that. It should be very nice. Let's see how this works. I don't know, you might have to hover over it. There it is. Fade in. Oh yeah, that's nice, huh? One image fading into the other. That's great. Yep. It's so simple. I can show you guys the JavaScript that was involved in doing this. Let's see if I've got it somewhere. You had to write to do this prior to this. Or the ActionScript was just as bad. So to start with, you've got the cover, positions it relatively. The image position is absolute, starts at 0, and opacity starts at 4 seconds and then eases in and out. And so we have two images. We start with IHTP.png and IHTP8.png, and then the ID is cover, and then you have one sitting on top of the other, and then they just when you start, the top, when you hover over it is when it starts. Okay, now it's not doing anything. If I hover over it, now it'll start. And then if I hover out, it goes back. So that's pretty easy way of doing what was much more difficult in the past. Not really difficult, but just definitely required programming. Downloading web fonts in the @font_face rule. Using @font_face rule, you can specify fonts for a web page even if they are not installed in the user system. The downloadable fonts helps to ensure uniform look across clients, so it'll actually download the correct one. In 5.15, we're going to use a Google web font called Calligraffiti. And there's also a number of fonts you can use. Right, so that's their font, and it would download it. Although I don't know that this is something new. I think this existed in... I don't think that this is new. I think this existed in 2. So I don't know if that's actually new. Web fonts. To get Google's web font, you can go to their website, search for them, next click the quick use to get the link, the style sheets that you want to use, paste the link element into the head section of your document, doing something like that. The at media screen rule specifies that the font will be used when the document is rendered on a computer screen. At font face rule includes font family, font style, and font weight. At font face rule also includes the location of the font. Flex box layout module makes it easy to align the contents of boxes, change their size, change their order dynamically, and lay out the contents in any direction. So the examples have embedded style sheets. Should we be using external ones? Yeah, it's really generally considered a better idea to use external ones, for sure. So these are about creating flexible divs. And that's this last example here, where you can see how these things grow. It's also kind of nice. Got shadows and rounded corners. Box orientation horizontal. Ease in and ease out, or ease out for the flex box, which is for a div. Got the border, the box shadowing, padding and width. And you've got different creating child divs, background color, light gray in every case. What to do in a hover, which essentially changes the width, really, for the most part. Just change the width to 200 pixels. And the different hover, it has the different colors too for each one of those. The width starts at 120 pixels, increases to 200 when you hover over it. That's a nice effect. The color also changes. Definitely something new. That's all this stuff here. So the size increases to 200 pixels when you hover. And then for each one has a hover as well. So for the first one it changes to royal blue, then crimson, crimson again, and then dark green. So that's got a nice effect there as well. And you can see how it goes. So some nice neat stuff you've got there with CSS3. Any questions so far? So let's look at some of the details here. We define div, to which we apply the flexbox CSS class. The div contains 4 other divs. The flexbox class displays property is set to the new CSS value box. The box orient property specifies the orientation of the box layout. The default is horizontal, which we specified anyway. You can use vertical. For the nested divs, we specify a 1 second ease out transition. This will take effect when the hover pseudo class is applied to any of the divs. Right, so we can see the transition. In child selectors in CSS3, you can use selectors to easily select elements to style based on their attributes. We use nth child selectors to select Each of the four div elements in the flexbox div to style div nth child selects the div element that's the first child of its parent and applies the background color of light blue. Similarly, 2 selects the second one and applies that color, and then the third and fourth as well, and applies the background color. And we see that that is exactly what happens. So the first one gets the blue, and then we've got that one, which are the same two colors, then green. And then we define what are we going to do on the hover. For one case, we're going to set the width to 200 pixels, the color to white, which is the text color, and we use the nChild selection to specify a new background color for each nested one. Again, if we look at the source code, we'll see that. So those colors go to white, as you can see, and it gets a new background color. Right, light gray. In every case, the width goes to 200, the color to white, and the font weight bold. And then each one of these gets their own color. So the overflow text is hidden initially. Right there. So in this second one, you see the overhang text is hidden, and then when you expand it, it just shows it. CSS allows you to create multi-column layouts, figure 5-.17. Did I have that one? Interesting. What happened? Do I not have that one? Let me see what happened here. Oh, I don't know how these didn't wind up on my website. Okay. Somehow I missed it. Let's see if we can add it in. Okay, 17 now. Multiple different columns. CSS allows you to create multiple column layouts. Set on column count to 3 and the column gap property, which are when we add a thin black line between each column using the column rule property, when you run this example, try resizing your browser. So let's take a look at this one. First of all, let's look at the source. It's multiple columns. Column count is 3. The gap is 30 pixels. And the column rule is 1 pixel outset black. And these are actually doing it as paragraphs, but the paragraphs are going to be put into different columns. And I'm only seeing 3 columns there, but let's see. We got this here, multi-columns. Oh, I see. So it's almost like it reads like a newspaper, which is kind of cool. Multi-columns. Now, if they're saying resize it, which resizes nicely as well. It's almost like a newspaper effect that you get there. Alright, we already went through this source code. Media queries. You can determine the finer attributes of the media on which the user is viewing the page, such as the length and width of the viewing area of the screen, to better customize your presentation. We can modify multi-column example to alter the numbers of the columns based on that. Not found. So, what should that be? Okay, a similar thing, but let's look at the source. Depending upon which media you're looking at, you can set the maximum length, so it's a handheld, versus different types of screens. Only screen. Set your different widths. Only screen. So you can set different widths based on the media. And we have something like this in CSS2 that as well, but it's more expanded. The media property is more expanded now. In the past, you actually could do this, but you had to use JavaScript to do it. So now it just says, based on what type of media you're using, you can set different widths and size, and that's a good idea. Media rule is used to determine the type and size of the device on which the page is rendered. When the browser looks at the rule, the result is either true or false. If the rule is applied only if the result is true, first we use the media rule to determine whether the page is being rendered on a handheld device, like a smartphone, with a max width of 180 pixels, or a device with a screen that has a max device width of 480 pixels, on a screen having a max width of 480 pixels. So basically anything that's looking at a max width of 480 pixels. If it's true, then we set the column count to 1. Page will be rendered in a single column on a handheld device such as an iPhone. or in browsers that have been resized to 480 pixels or less. If the condition of the first media rule is false, then we look at the second media rule, and depending upon whether it's true or false, we will set the minimum width there as well. And then finally, we'll look at the third condition if the second one is false. The condition in the first two media are false, and we'll look at the third condition. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so that's about it for now. Go ahead and play with some of these examples yourselves. Is there any questions about anything? That's about all I've got for tonight.